look, let's get into the player ratings. Let's start off with Vicario. We've both given him a 9 all rounds. And I don't think I've ever seen like a goalkeeper being given, well, I gave a man the match yesterday for conceding 4 goals in a 4-1 defeat, but the scoreline just does not tell the story of the whole game for Vicario yesterday, because he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant from start to finish. The saves that he was making from point blank range, the sweeping was just so impressive. Catching crosses as well. I mean, the guy was just insane yesterday, and I don't think you can put any of the goals that we conceded down to him either. Yeah,
I thought he was exceptional. What a performance from even in the first half when he had to make some crucial saves to keep the game at 1-1 from Nick Jackson and from Palmer. Then the second half, I've never seen a keeper sweep like that in my life, really. It was a masterclass in sweeper keeping from Vicario, especially with Spurs playing this mega high line. And he was absolutely exceptional. I think it was 12 defensive actions outside the box, which is more than any keeper in any game this season. I think even last season as well. Fantastic performance. And again, another example of him just being one of the best keepers in the Premier League this season. He was just exceptional on the day. Can't give high enough praise to him.
Yeah, I was saying in the WhatsApp yesterday, if we had Lloris in goal yesterday, probably double figures in goals we conceded yesterday.
Probably. Although Lloris was very good at coming off his line in his early career, but once
upon a time. I'm talking about today's Lloris.
Oh yeah, today's Lloris, obviously, yeah.
Let's move on to Pedro Porro. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him an 8. Surprising you gave him a 6. So I thought Porro was really good yesterday. Yes, he was poor in the opening exchanges where, his passing was letting us down. But I felt like he just grew and grew and grew into the game. And when we went down to 9 men, I thought he was vital for us. The amount of tackles and duels he was winning, he was going all out. And I thought his nature on the pitch, his application on the pitch really stood us in good stead.
Yeah, I just couldn't ignore the first half. I thought he was really poor. Not only was his passing poor, put us in a lot of dangerous situations, I thought Sterling was giving him a real tough time in that first half as well. I thought the defending for the goal that Sterling had ruled out was really poor. He got beaten way too easily for that as well. I just thought he was really poor in the first half. I agree with you, though. Second half, he improved massively, and I was really happy with the second half performance. But if I'm giving him honestly a 3 or 4 out of 10 that first half, I gave him like a 7 or an 8, so it averages to about 6. So I gave him a 6.
Moving on to Kuti Romero, 1s all round for Romero, and I'm not sure what that 1 is. Probably just for crossing the white line to come onto the pitch, to be honest, because this guy, the old
1
Kuti,
for taking the game to Chelsea,
1 for kicking lumps out of Chelsea. But I thought, look, could have got sent off before he did get sent off, and that was pretty much the only actions he had in the game. He completely threw the game away pretty much yesterday, and it was Kuti Romero doing the old Kuti Romero things, and it's unfortunate to see, because you're looking at it, and the 2 games where he's come under massive criticism now this season, Arsenal away and Chelsea at home, are 2 biggest games that we've had so far this season. And at the Arsenal game, he scores an own goal and gives away a penalty. In this game, he gets sent off after half an hour
and gives away a penalty.
So it's these big occasions where Romero needs to watch himself massively.
100%. He let us down massively yesterday. I'm very disappointed in him, to be honest. And I think, look, I still think he's a brilliant defender. And even look, there are defenders who are very good and known as some of the best defenders who get loads of red cards. Look at Pepe, Sergio Ramos throughout their whole career. They've been aggressive, and how many red cards did Ramos get in his career? About 30 or so, ridiculous. And he's known as one of the best centre-backs in Europe. So I don't think just because he gets the occasional red card, and that means he's a liability or anything like that. But it wasn't just the red card. He was so poor just throughout the game. The quality was missing yesterday. He gave the ball away in the lead up to the penalty as well. We were in control when he gave away, when he started doing those stupid things, and that's what ultimately lost us that control in the end of the day. And especially when he's part of the leadership group, he can't be putting the results at risk like that the way he was, and letting the team down. And ultimately, it cost us. I think he has to learn from it. Hopefully, down the line, it'll be a big learning curve for him, and he can cut it out. But we've said it before, and he's still doing it. So part of me thinks he's never going to cut it out. But hopefully, he stops doing it in such crucial games and in games where we need him to stay on the pitch.
That's what it is for me. I mean, in all the other games, apart from those 2 games, he's been perfect in terms of being overly aggressive, being a leader, showing that responsibility. But then as soon as it comes to these big games, the Arsenals and the Chelseas, it's like this thing switches in his head. Like he just goes back to the old Romero, being overly aggressive and just like letting the occasion get the better of him, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate to see. But let's move on to Mickey van der Ven. 7s all round from Mickey. Obviously, he goes off in the first half, in the latter stages of the first half, and that injury, that was probably the worst moment in the game in terms of the outlook of the season and what's going to happen with us now, because he's been so crucial to us, and unfortunately, that injury is going to cost us big time. It really is. And I'm not sure like what our backline is going to look like for the rest of the season or while he's out injured. But in terms of what he did on the pitch, he wasn't at his amazing best, to be honest. But I feel like he was doing a really good job for the team. I thought our playing out the back, everything, there were some good and bad moments in there from him. But I did think there were more good than bad from Mickey van der Ven. And I thought he played well for the most part. But it's that injury that really cost us.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's devastating. To be honest, you saw him in so much pain when he went off and could barely walk as well. He was seen on crutches after the game. So it seems as though it's going to be, as Postecoglou said, a significant injury. I thought he was having a pretty decent game, but there were points where he didn't cover himself in much glory. The challenge in the build-up to Romero got a penalty was poor as well. Takes a swipe at Sterling, gets nowhere near him. He got absolutely spun by Nicholas Jackson for a chance in the first half as well. But he was doing a lot of good work sweeping up behind our defence, especially when he was next to Dier and he had to do a lot of defending. He was doing some good stuff, and unfortunately, that moment is going to looks like it's going to cost him dearly, that injury. So hoping for a speedy recovery, but it just doesn't look good for him.
Yeah. Destiny Udogie, Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 2. Obviously could have got sent off in the first half. Gets a yellow card, gets another yellow card at the start of the second half, gets sent off, and quite rightly so. 2 stupid challenges to make. You got to say that. And, maybe that was his youth and inexperience showing through. I'm not going to lay into him as much as I am with Cuti Romero, because Romero is supposed to be that leadership head in the back line, where Udogie's a young player coming through, 20 years of age, 21 years of age. But having said that, if you're old enough and you're good enough to play in a team, you've got to show that responsibility and you've got to show that maturity, which he didn't do yesterday, unfortunately. And it wasn't just the sending off as well. I thought he started the game really poorly, to be honest. I thought he was giving away the ball a lot. It wasn't the kind of Udogie that we've seen for the most part of the season, and I felt he was just poor, even when he was on the pitch.
Yeah, I think when he was on the ball, especially in the early exchanges when Spurs were looking good, I thought he was actually looking quite good. But again, it all changed when he made that silly challenge on Sterling, which, he was lucky to get away with a red. And the annoying thing is, we saw what happened when at Arsenal. Like, he got an early booking. Yeah, he composed himself, ended up having a really good game, but unfortunately, it seemed like it got to him in this one, and it wasn't the same. Albeit the second yellow came from a really good piece of defending, which I got to give him a bit of credit for, because he stopped a 3-on-2 and he did really good interception. But again, unfortunately, it follows up with a really poor challenge on Sterling, literally the second later, and ends up getting sent off. So maybe a bit of immaturity there from Udogie, showing rearing his ugly head, unfortunately for him. So it's something he'll learn from. He'll only be missing for 1 game as opposed to 3, which is positive, but something he needs to learn from if he's going to be develop into a top left back, which he seems to be doing. I'm not going to batter him too much, and he's still only 21, but showed a bit of immaturity yesterday, unfortunately.
Pape Matar Sarr, moving on to him, 7s all round for Pape. I thought it was another really strong display from Sarr, to be honest, especially when we went down to 10 men. I thought Sarr was just putting in such a shift for the team, never stopping running, putting out a lot of fires and winning a lot of duels in the centre of the park. Going forward, he tried to spur us forward and push us forward a lot, but he got taken off quite soon after that second red card, to be honest. And maybe he ran out of energy or something. I'm not sure why he got taken off.
Yeah, he was on a yellow, and I think we need a bit more energy. I actually thought, again, in the first 15 minutes, he was actually crucial in a lot of the good stuff we did. He played a nice ball out to Kulusevski, who, when we scored, and then he played a really nice ball out to Udogie in the build-up to the second goal, which obviously got ruled out from offside. But he was really bright. He was looking really energetic. He actually showed a bit of quality on the ball as well. But when we're down to 10 men, obviously became very difficult for him. He had to do a lot of work off the ball. He had one chance in the second half to slip in Son, and the pass was just a bit off, and unfortunately didn't go our way. But he showed really good energy to keep us in the game with when we were down to 9 men, but unfortunately wasn't enough and was taken off. But a solid showing for him.
Moving on to Yves Bissouma, Sim gives him a 6. I gave him an 8. I do actually think 11v11, he was actually quite poor and wasn't impacting the game too much. But I felt like when we needed him, when we went down to 10 men, when we went down to 9 men, I thought he really did a massive shift for the team, to be honest. I thought he was defensively brilliant, showing his passing ability as well in that second half. And again, another one that just put in a massive shift for the team in that second half. And that's why I rated him quite high.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think in the second half, in the last half an hour or so, he did see something seemed to click into gear for him, and he was actually having a really strong showing. And a part of the reason why we were still in the game, especially on the ball, was because Bissouma was doing a great job. But I thought for the first hour or so, I just didn't see much of him, to be honest. I thought he was just a bit anonymous, which is unlike Bissouma, because usually whether he's very involved in the game, at least on the ball or off the ball. But I didn't see too much of him for the first hour. But he definitely did start to get more involved in later on in the game, and was starting to have a really strong showing and did a really good work for the team. But I couldn't ignore the first hour, so I gave him a 6.
Moving on to James Maddison, 6s all round from us. Did get taken off in the first half, in the latter stage of the first half, due to injury. 6s all round for him. I mean, he struggled yesterday, Maddison, to be honest, to play his proper stuff. I felt like, when we were on top in the first 15 minutes, he was central to that. But apart from that, after the first 15 minutes, Chelsea really put it on us. So, I mean, he wasn't really in the game. And it was just unfortunate that he had to go off. Yeah,
taken off in 35 minutes or so.
I think it was a bit later than that.
Maybe a bit later.
It was like 45th minute or something.
45th minute. Yeah, it wasn't his game, really. Obviously, he spent a lot of the game down on the ground, being injured. He went down a couple of times before ultimately having to go off. I thought in the first 15 minutes, he was good. I thought he played really well. I thought he was, again, a big part of the good football we were playing. But unfortunately, once we went down to 10 men and things started going against us, he was on the periphery. So it just wasn't really his game, unfortunately.
Yeah. Moving on to Decky, 7s all round from us. And I was actually saying to someone, they go to me, I can't remember who they said, needs to score today, needs to score. And I go, no, Decky needs to score today, and show that his good form in this season. He needs to back it up with goals. And 6 minutes in, he scores a goal. Yes, it was very much a deflection that finds the back of the net. And I've looked at it again a few times. I'm not too sure that shot was on target, to be honest, from Decky.
I think it was.
You think it was?
Yeah, I think
I'm not too, I don't know, maybe. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I think another player that put in a really big shift for the team, non-stop running. His off-the-ball work was brilliant. The amount of duels he was winning was brilliant. But look, we were just under so much pressure with the lack of numbers. But I do think he was, again, another player that really stood up yesterday.
Yeah, and I thought even in the second half, I think he got taken off on the hour. But in the second half, he did some really great pressing and tackles inside the Chelsea half, which there was one moment where he tackled a Chelsea player and it led to Sarr having a chance to slip in Son. He was doing some really good stuff. First half, I thought he was energetic, especially in the opening exchanges, and obviously did really well for the goal. I thought he was having a really good battle with Colwell, and I thought he was winning it up until things started to go against us. So I thought he was having a really strong game, and he put in a massive shift for the team. But unfortunately,
Colwell got taken off after.
Yeah, he got booked, and I thought he was struggling against Kulusevski, to be honest. But unfortunately, he went down to 9 men, and Postecoglou had to change it, so Kulu was the one to be taken off. But I thought he had a pretty strong showing when he was on the pitch.
Yeah, very hard work. In terms of Heung-min Son, Sim gives him a 6. I gave him an 8, and I thought this guy just richly ran his socks off for the team yesterday. Obviously, nearly put us 2-0 up just after we scored our first, when he was just like a millimetre offside. It was so unfortunate. Nearly as well had a big chance to level it up later on in the game, when just after Chelsea go 2-1 up, when he beats like 2 men bursting into the box. Great pace he was showing, and it was just a tiny bit of a poor finish where Sanchez was equal to it. But again, another player that put in such a major shift for the team. He was doing such a hard task, wasn't he? Up front on his own, just chasing down everything. leading by example, really, with the application and the energy that he was showing on the pitch yesterday. And again, that's why I marked him up quite high.
Yeah, he definitely had a bright start to the game. He was looking really energetic and really good, battling up against Disasi and Silva in the opening exchanges, and was actually getting the better of them quite a few times. Obviously, not only with his hold-up play, I thought he was quite good. And then obviously he had that goal ruled out for offside, but again, showed his predatory instincts. Unfortunately, went against them on that occasion. But then it became very difficult for him, especially when it went down to 9 men. It was literally him against 3 defenders pretty much every time. And it was very difficult for him to have any sort of joy. He was obviously non-stop running. He was continuously trying to even press. Even when we had 9 men, he was trying to press them and try to force situations. Unfortunately, to no avail. But he had the big opportunity late in the game, which he made for himself, to be fair to him. And it was a really good piece of dribbling and piece of play from him. But unfortunately, wasn't able just to didn't quite catch the strike right. And Sanchez was able to save. I don't have any complaints about his work ethic. I just thought it was very difficult for him in that game to get involved under the circumstances.
And last but not least, Brennan Johnson, 7s all round for Brennan. Started the game so brightly, didn't he? On that left-hand side, giving them no ends of problems, putting in nice crosses into the box, energetic, dangerous. And I'm starting to feel sorry for Brennan Johnson now. I mean, he just can't seem to get this Spurs career kicked off properly. I mean, he starts his first game against Arsenal, has to get taken off through injury, starts his second game against Chelsea, and he's the fall guy for Romero's red card, albeit he was one of the better players on the pitch at that moment in time. But yeah, it was just unfortunate.
Yeah, I think Brennan had a really bright first half an hour, to be honest, before getting taken off. I was really happy with his performance. I thought Reece James was struggling against him, to be honest, whenever he got the ball. He was doing really well when he was facing up against Reece James, and he was either cutting inside or going to the byline, and James couldn't really have an answer for him. But unfortunately, yeah, it's a shame for him. He can't seem to get a consistent run of games because of circumstances at the moment.
I think he will now, though.
But look. I think he looked a lot better than Richarlison did, even though maybe you could argue he didn't do as much. But I think he looked brighter and he looked much more suited to that role on the left-hand side than Richarlison does. And obviously, he's definitely going to get an extended run of games now that Richarlison's out injured. So, thought it was a really bright performance from him. Really good pass as well to Son for the offside goal. So I was really happy with Johnson. So hopefully he's obviously going to get more game time now. But again, I just feel sorry for him that, as circumstances went against him again.
Moving on to the substitutes, Pierre and Hojbjerg, 8s all round from us. I thought it was a brilliant display from Pierre when he came on yesterday. When he moved in, he was actually better at centre-back than he was in midfield, to be honest, yesterday. And his ball-playing ability, I thought, was top-notch. His aggression, top-notch. If we would have got a result yesterday, we would have had a lot to thank to Pierre and Hojbjerg yesterday, because that's how good he actually was. And with us having a lot of injuries, maybe he's the one that can step up, slot into centre-back, slot into midfield, where we've got massive holes. But I think the last couple of times that Hojbjerg has played now, you're really seeing the value of him.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought he came on in a difficult situation and did himself proud under the circumstances, really put in a massive shift. And to put in a shift in makeshift centre-back as well, I was very impressed with some of the tackles he was making, the recoveries. I think what encapsulated his game was, I think his first action moving centre-back, he cleared a Nick Jackson header off the line with his knee and then celebrated it like we just scored a goal as well. That was proper raw, the over stuff from Hojbjerg. Had a really strong showing, and maybe he showed an ability to play a bit of a ball-playing centre-back kind of role, which maybe we might need in the upcoming weeks. So we'll see what Ange thinks of it, but I thought he did himself really proud with his performance off the bench.
Eric Dier came on yesterday in the first half. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8, and everyone just feared the worst when Eric Dier came on. And look, to be fair, the worst did happen because we ended up with losing 4-1. But I thought Eric Dier was brilliant when he came on. I thought maybe his playing out the back was a bit dodgy when he first came on. Maybe he needed a bit of time to get into the game. But I thought once he did get into the game, defensively, he was absolutely spot on until maybe the last couple of minutes when he got caught out. But that was always expected when you're playing that much of a high line with Eric Dier at the back. You're going to get caught out. That's just essentially what's going to happen. But I felt like he was winning his duels. He was helping out the team massively and nearly got on the score sheet really with that offside goal with an amazing volley that hits the back of the net, but it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, I think he had a much better cameo performance than anyone would have anticipated under the circumstances. I thought, especially when we were down to 10, he was doing well. He had a really strong performance. Didn't really make any mistakes. When we were down to 9 men, I felt like every time they were able to get in behind, Dier had a bit of a part to play in it. But look, at the end of the day, when you're playing at that kind of high line with Dier in the back, you have to expect the situations to happen because that's not his game, and that's not where we see the best of Eric Dier. So it wasn't. I'm not going to blame him. That is just what I saw, what I observed, especially with the goals late on. I feel like they were running off him specifically and targeting his lack of pace with the balls in behind, and obviously that proved it. And that does make me concerned if we're going to be playing a high line in the future with him at the back. But I have to give him credit because a lot of the times he was making crucial interceptions and tackles, and obviously a brilliant finish for the goal as well, which was ultimately ruled out for offside. So he had a really strong showing, but I feel like he stepped up in a difficult situation, whereas if he is to start games coming forward, we'll have to wait and see whether he gets caught out or not.
Yeah, he's going to need to step up over the next few weeks, that's for sure. In terms of Emerson Royale, another player that came on, 7 from Sim, 8 from me. And I thought another player who put in such a major shift for the team yesterday. He won 10 out of his 13 ground duels yesterday. And that just shows like what an amazing performance and what a shift he put in under so much pressure. Emerson just steps in and he was aggressive, defensively sound. I mean, everything that we needed from him in that 45 minutes of football, he pretty much gave us. We just came unstuck in the last stage of the game. Yeah,
I thought he had a good performance, to be honest. Defensively, I thought he was brilliant. And when we're down to 9 men, that's going to be a big part of the game. I thought he was good at centre back and he was good when he moved to full back as well. The only downside I would say is late in the game he had a few moments to get forward and try and provide something. He just didn't have it in him to do anything really. So that was a bit of a shame. Wasn't able to put any sort of good crosses in or anything like that. But defensively was spot on and was a big reason why we stayed in the game for so long.
Ollie Skipp, another one that came on in the second half. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him an 8. I think there seems to be a consistent theme here where I'm overrating players and you're underrating players. I'm not sure which one's right, but I think from me in the stands, I felt like they put in such a good shift and such a back to the wall performance going down to 9 men. I felt so much pride coming out of that stadium with the way our players worked and what they did for the team. I couldn't not rate them high. And I think Ollie Skipp was another one who just put himself about so much after he came on, the amount of challenges he was putting in and the aggressive nature to his game. And I just felt like if these players didn't perform the way they did, we would have lost even more heavily than we did.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he did badly. I don't think he did particularly anything incredible, but he did make a few really good last-ditch challenges which prevented us from conceding earlier. Obviously on the ball it's always going to be very difficult under the circumstances, but he didn't show too much. But I understand because when you're down to 9 men, the opposition have more players than you, so it's always going to be more difficult to show anything on the ball. But he wasn't able to show any kind of quality, which was a shame. But I thought off the ball he was really great and he did do a lot of good work and a lot of last-minute challenges. So give him some credit for that.
And last but not least of the playing staff, Udogie Bentancur, 7s all round for him. It's like he's never been away, to be honest. It's like he's never had this ACL because he's coming on and he's so silky and he's so good on the ball. I thought he came on and did a really good job for the team. Should have scored at the end. I don't know why he didn't use his feet instead of using his head, because I think if he uses his foot, it's probably a goal, and we don't know how the game ends. But I do think that maybe defensively he wasn't as good as maybe the other players that did come on. But again, I'm just loving seeing him back, and he's going to be massive for us over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, 100%. I thought he had a really bright cameo. Obviously, had missed that chance, which would have been unbelievable if we would have have scored it right at the end and would have been rewarded for his good work. He actually won the header as well, which led to Dier scoring. So he did make an influence off the bench. On the ball, I thought he was providing actually a bit of quality as well. He was kind of being a winger at times and being a number 10 at times. So he was trying his best to make something happen, to no avail. But he's still looking bright. It was good for him to get half an hour in his legs as well, off the back of obviously that big injury. So it was good to see him for a sustained period of time, and I thought he coped with it pretty well. So hopefully see more of him soon.
Now we move on to Ange Postecoglou. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. And I was struggling to rate Ange for this one. I really was, because there's so many different ways you can look at this game. So many. And the way I look at it is, we go down to 9 men, which is obviously no fault of Ange. But the way he reacted to going down to 9 men, playing I've never seen such kamikaze football before in my life. It was basically completely do or die. Either we were going to get something out of it, or we were going to get absolutely battered in the scoreline. Unfortunately, it was latter, but it was so close to being the other way. It really was. I've never seen a team create so much with 9 men. Like, we had 3 big chances with having 9 men, with the Bentancur one, with the Sonny one, and who was the other one with the Dier, the one that was offside. So you got to give him credit for the way he just sticks to his guns and says, no matter what, even if he said in the post-match interview, like, even if I go down to 5 men, I'm going to be playing a high line. I'm going to stick to my principles. But I do think that when certain situations happened in games, you do have to kind of adjust your tactics and adjust to the way you're playing. And then maybe if we did do that, we could have come out with a different result. And I'm thinking to myself, if we did go park that bus, could we have just nicked a draw out of that game and not look so open and not give away so many chances? I don't know, but I'm just thinking that maybe that could have been a situation. But you got to commend the bravery, you got to commend the way, the application and the mentality that he's instilled into those players. Like, you go down to 9 men, not one of those players gave up. They all put in a massive shift for the team, and they were all playing in the image of Ange Postecoglou. But I thought the subs that he made, I thought everyone came on and put in an unbelievable performance. It's going to be interesting to see how we react from this with all these players out, because if we can come out of this period with still being in and amongst the top of the league, Ange Postecoglou is literally the messiah. But essentially we lost 4-1 at home, so he has to get down marks for it. It is our first loss of the season in a very big game. But it's more that what happened in the game with the individual errors and the individual moments that are really going to kind of come under scrutiny. I don't think that's much to do with Ange, but I've just given him a 6 because I do feel like maybe he could have taken different situations in the game and got something out of it. But on the flip side of that, I do commend him for sticking to his guns and nearly getting something out of the game. So I'm very conflicted on this one.
Yeah, well, with him, we lost 4-1, and the fans gave him a standing ovation at the end of the game, or a big cheer at the end of the game. I think that goes to show all you need to know about what most people thought about our performance and how brave and how we stuck to our principles and stuck to our philosophy for even under the most testing of circumstances. And I credit Ange for trying to win the game, even though we're down to 9 men, even though most managers in this situation are gonna park the bus essentially and trying to eke out a draw. He didn't do that. He did things his way. It was his way or the highway. And I think fortune favors the brave. It didn't favor us in this time, but I think more often than not it will. And that's what he's trying to instill in his players. And I think he was inches away from a miraculous result and his tactics looking like a genius move rather than suicidal. But I agree. Maybe in terms of was it conducive? Was it the most conducive way of trying to get a result in a full match under the circumstances? Maybe not, but I'm never going to criticize a manager for trying to win it, for always trying to go and win the game rather than trying to get a result, and that's what he did even with 9 men. I think maybe later on in the season, when results and crunch time comes in and we need results to achieve our objectives, I do think he's going to see things in a different way. But right now, while we're in this project and everyone's still learning about how we want to play, and everyone's trying to get up to speed, it's not about like yes, we're top of the league, but I don't think he's looking about it like, oh, we're in a title challenge, we need points. He's looking about like, I want to ingrain in these players how we play, and that we don't stop playing the way we play even under these certain circumstances. So I think that's what he's trying to instill. And I think the fact that we had such a bad result, and the fans reacted that way, for me shows a lot more than just having that result in isolation. So I think that means more to me, and hopefully to the long term of this football club. So that's why I credited Ange Postecoglou for that.
You got to commend, and you got to say it's unbelievable bravery, and you got to say as well, like, credit to Ange and his mentality, because even at 9 men, even at 10 men, he still thought that we can go get a result and still go and even win that game, never mind draw the game.
I don't think he wants the draw. He didn't want the draw. He wanted to win.
Yeah, so it's unbelievable mentality from Ange, but I do feel like if he did take other steps, maybe we could have nicked a draw out of that.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
Is what it is. That is our player ratings. It's going to be very interesting to see how the next few weeks pan out. I was saying to someone before the game, I was speaking to him, and we were like, oh, this international break has come at the worst time for us. And then, like, at the end of the game, I bumped into him, and we both didn't even like say anything to each other. We were both like, international break, we need it now.
Now. No time to waste.
Exactly.